Okay. So this is important because you do not get freedom without a team that can function without you. And it's been a minute. So, I mean, I've been doing this going on 16 years, not this, that, clinic stuff. And I will say in the last 2 to 3 years, our team has found a rhythm I never would have thought possible. I never would have thought I would be happy with it. I never would have thought that the people like that I would have dealt with the guilt or the perfectionism. Like I just our team meetings are wild. We have one big team meeting a month and one smaller team meeting a month. And in the big team meeting, there's an agenda. I don't run the meeting. Somebody else runs the meeting. Somebody else keeps notes for the meeting. And I would say I talk for about 10% of the meeting. Now we have a team of 9, I think 9, I don't know. And so, obviously that's going to be different if it's just you and somebody else. And that's an important thing to note here is that when we're talking to the smaller teams, just you and one other person, you need to still listen to this episode. Now, a lot of the advice I'm going to give, you may need to put through your unique filter because part of where you were like these people who are running these bigger teams and everybody's still, it's because they didn't start taking actions when there was just one other person. So yes, some of the advice you're going to have to kind of put through your own filter for you, but you have to start taking action as soon as there's one other person beyond you. You have to start shifting some of this stuff. So for instance, if it is just you and one other person, you can still have a formal meeting. You can still have an agenda. You can still have that one person is responsible for bringing information, ideas, solutions to that. Okay. So like that's really where that culture starts is in this environment where you're functioning as a team and like getting ideas and solving together. Okay. So you can start there even when it's just you and one other person. Okay. So your clinic has become owner dependent. How do you know if this is you? So this is you if your team asks you questions they probably could have figured out by themselves, or questions that they could have gone to Google or chat like you were going to do anyways. Your team still needs approval for tiny decisions. You get interrupted constantly during patient care, or maybe you have a CEO shift where you're not there, but your staff is working, like they're messaging you. You take back tasks because it's just faster. You maybe complain to your spouse that nobody helps. You are the only person who knows how things are supposed to be done the correct way, or you feel like you're the only person who can actually carry the ball all the way across the line. Like somebody will get something 90%, you can get it the final 10%. You leave for vacation and the clinic doesn't fall apart, but is waiting for you when you come back of like you come back to, okay, now that you're back, we need a decision on this, and this. And you have employees that feel like dependents versus a team that is supporting you back. I'm going to say this just because you're the CEO and you are expected to be the true leader, the calm one, the one that creates the culture, the one that writes the paychecks, all of that. Just because you are the captain of the ship does not mean that you shouldn't be able to completely rely on every single other person on your team to carry their own weight. Okay? If you are carrying the weight of your entire team, you are going to feel exhausted because you're in healthcare and you're also carrying the weight of your patients. And if you're a parent, you're also carrying the weight of your family. It's too many people, right? So this is not just a staffing issue. This is really an owner dependency issue. So let's rewind a bit here and say, like, how did we get here? So some of you started by yourself. Okay, like me, I did not have any front desk. And this was back in the day, folks, before automations and VAs and things like that. It was me. I was running credit cards. I was answering the phone. I was doing everything. But let's say you either started by yourself or you started with a single person. Basically, every single system, every single SOP needed to be created from your head and memorized through you. You created every single detail. Like, this is your baby, the clinic. So being hands-on was necessary. You know, it was like, well, I don't know how I want the SOP for that to go. I don't know what the script should be when a new patient calls. And so you are so hands-on everything. Like, this is an extension. You were in school, you were an associate, and you were just dreaming of, like, when I own my clinic, it's going to be different, right? And this is good. We wouldn't want to hire, you open your front door. Yeah, you open your clinic. You wouldn't like take somebody off the street and be like, I don't know, you just say whatever you think the SOP should be for a new patient. You just schedule however you think. You run their credit card when you think, right? Like, no, this is what do you think? You are creating every single detail of this. Then the clinic grows. You have less time. Whatever kind of like chaotic shit show of an SOP you started when you were seeing 10 people a week is now the chaotic shit show of an SOP that you're seeing 100 people a week. And your leadership probably didn't really grow with it. Sorry, it just doesn't tend to. You're growing, you have less time. So a lot of times the fastest way to get something done is for the best person to do it. And guess who's the best person? You are usually the best person at this. So-and-so called, they're mad they got a bill from us. Like, what do you want me to say to them? Oh, Susan, let me call Susan. Like there's just so many different things that, it's like, oh, I'm the best one to make the reel. I'm the best one to do this. Oh, the voice answering machine should be me. Like, just you guys come up with all these things, right? And it's not wrong in the beginning, but you can see where this starts to become a slippery slope. Who is best to call Susan about that $600 surprise bill that she got? Is it you or the, 21-year-old who's been working at your front desk for the last 30 days when you don't have a good script or SOP for her? So you did what you like. When I look back at the first 1 to 3 years, it's like raising a baby. It really, really is, you guys, where you're just like, you look back on a blur. And especially if you were crazy like me and didn't start with like a practice management group that you just borrowed their SOPs. Now, maybe that I should have done that. Maybe I don't know. That's not what this is about. But I do wonder. I did not have a practice management group, so I didn't get any of their bad habits, but I also, again, I just created my own bad habits. And so you just look back and you're like, oh my God, we were just trying to pay the bills. And it was chaos and fun, but we were growing. That's great. It's not chaos when you're not growing, right? It's chaos when you're like, holy shit, we've got 27 new patients and like da-da-da-da. So what happens is you're the fastest person to fix a problem and you don't have much time and you don't have much energy. So what is it? It's just easier when something comes up. It'll take you 2 minutes to do. It would take you 10 minutes to teach, and then they probably wouldn't even do it as good as you. So you just do it yourself. And your team learned that if they wait, if they ask, if they stall, if they just ask what you think, you will eventually do it for them, right? I kind of touched on this in the prayer. I don't mean this as like, I hate referring to my employees as my children, but like if the shoe fits sometimes in these analogies, right? So this is kind of like you got a teenager who's like doing a really bad job of loading the dishwasher, and they know that you're just gonna step in. You're just gonna step in and do it, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, you're so good at loading the dishwasher." Does this happen consciously, subconsciously? We're not sure. But then you now start to resent the dependency that you helped create. You know you can do it better though. You are tired and you don't have much time, so you don't know how to get out of this. It's not that you're a bad leader. This is just default that happened as things were growing and you were trying to survive. Okay. We do not default to good patterns. We default to easy. We default to the path of least resistance between where we are and the result we want. But the problem is we're always thinking through the acute result instead of the more global chronic result. The acute result is putting out the fire in that moment or that day or that week. Whereas the chronic result, we said like, if the toilet is overflowing, the acute result is we need the toilet to stop overflowing and we need to call a plumber who will get here fast, and your cousin is a plumber and so this is great, and to make it stop. But then the more chronic result is, well, would you like an employee that can take initiative and knows how to handle things like this and knows who your go-to people are for plumbing? Oh, they didn't even know you were related to someone, right? You can see even in this example where you'd be like, oh, you called that plumber? Like my cousin's a plumber, right? And so it's just easier if I just call him fastest, right, type thing. So we're just doing the default patterning that happens to try and survive. So there are 3 main reasons your clinic depends on you.